Seltzer Kings.
Podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Underwear drawers are like the Wild West. You never know what you're going to pull out or what shape it's in. So upgrade your collection with the buttery soft comfort of MeUndies. MeUndies' signature fabric is as soft as a warm hug from your favorite sweater. Plus, it's breathable and oh so comfy, making it ideal for all-day wear. Get 20% off your first order, plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Spotify with code SPOTIFY. That's MeUndies.com/Spotify, code SPOTIFY.
Yes, Kevin, all very enlightened. No smoking in the pubs in the UK. All the toxic spew just comes from, the people.
Ass. The following podcast contains
tobacco, swear words, and yes, alcohol.
Explicit language.
Hello and welcome to the podcast that asks a simple question. When you said smoke them if you got them, but then you didn't have them, so you smoked one of mine? What the hell were you thinking? I'm your host, Dave Bledsoe, and this is episode number 484 of the Thank You for Smoking edition of the show, where we talk about why Americans used to smoke so damn much. Stay tuned. The What the Hell Were You Thinking podcast is brought to you by Real Cigarettes, because vaping makes you look stupid. Many parents today are justly worried today about their teens' use of vape products, be it toxic chemicals used in the manufacture of the vape or just the long-term health impact of vape use. At Real Cigarettes, we have the answer. Just smoke Real Cigarettes. All your questions are answered with Real Cigarettes. We know what chemicals are in them and what the long-term health effects will be. So why risk the unknown? Enjoy a Real Cigarette today and enjoy the bonus of looking really cool when you smoke.
Pardon me?
Look, I mean, nothing personal, but tobacco generates a little more heat than alcohol.
Oh, this is news.
Well, my product puts away 475,000 a year.
Oh, okay, now 475 is a legit number.
Okay, 435,000. That's 1,200 a day. How many alcohol-related deaths a year?
Well, does that
100,000 tops? That's what, 270 a day? Wowie. 270 people, the tragedy. Excuse me if I don't exactly see terrorists getting excited about kidnapping anyone from the alcohol industry.
Well, you haven't even taken into account the number of deaths
a year. Bobby, how many gun deaths a year in the U.S.?
11,000.
11,000. Are you kidding me? 30 a day? It's less than passenger car mortalities. No terrorist would bother with either of you.
Have you ever noticed that all the photographs from the 1970s seem to have that same yellow tint to them?
Oh, I can't say as I have.
Well,
Take a look at some of them. They all got it. Now, you might think this is just some artifact of how the film was processed or printed back then, but I'm here to tell you, it's not the case. That's how everything looked.
I was making up crazy stories again.
Everything outside was tinted by air pollution, and everything inside was tinted by cigarette smoke.
You want a cigarette?
Oh, no, thank you.
If you were born after 1990, you simply can't imagine how much everyone smoked back then. My dad smoked a pipe. My mom would spark a Salem from time to time. My paternal grandfather chain-smoked Viceroys from the time he woke up to the time he went to bed.
Caught the wind and man we flew. A seasoned captain and I was his crew. Clear sailing ahead, canvas set, time to relax. I said, cigarette? He said, thank you, friend, I want to be fair, but I've tried your brand and there's no taste there. Now, Viceroy tastes the way you'd like a filter cigarette to taste. Not too strong, not too light.
Viceroy's got the taste that's right.
I learned a lot that day at sea. Sailing and Viceroy are both for me. Now, if you smoke all 7 leading filter brands, you'll find some too strong, some too light. But Viceroy's got the filter for the taste that's right.
My maternal grandfather smoked these home roll cigarettes out of Prince Albert tobacco.
He's in a can?
All my uncles smoked, many of my aunts smoked, my teachers smoked, including gym teachers, doctors, dentists, pastors, a kid working at McDonald's, all smoked. If you didn't smoke,
there is something very wrong with you.
I started smoking in high school because
it's cool. It is cool looking.
And it didn't really become a thing until I joined the military. I went to basic training in December of 1987, and in those days, we could still smoke in our off-duty time, roughly 3 minutes every 6 to 8 hours. We could also smoke during our patio breaks, usually a little half-hour thing that we got once a week or so if we behaved, where we could relax. And if our technical instructor, the Air Force slang for a drill sergeant, was a smoker, and many of them were, might give you a smoke break because they wanted one. And even if you didn't smoke, you learned to start smoking to get that few minutes of chill in a goddamn hectic day.
Smoke if you got them.
After basic training, you smoked to keep awake. You smoked when you drank. You smoked when you got some face time with the sergeants, most of whom smoked. And for the first few years I was in, you could smoke inside buildings, but more and more smokers were sent to the designated smoking area, a.k.a. the smoke pit.
Take it outside.
Often a red square of either lumber planks or painted rocks or just painted lines on concrete and a red sand bucket where you'd put your butts out. By 97, when I was getting out, all smoking in federal buildings was banned, and the smoke pit became this egalitarian spot for what were increasingly social pariahs to hang out. I mean, ranks still mattered, but our nasty habit made for strange bedfellows, standing out in the rain and snow, shivering to get our nicotine fit. I don't blame the military for making me a smoker because I was primed for a very early age to smoke and to think that smoking was, in fact, very cool.
Hell yeah.
Which brings me to this week's topic, the Great America Smoke-In, when almost everybody in America smoked, and what it was like when they did. Now, we discussed the history of tobacco way back in episode number 421.
That's a plug.
So there's no need to recap all of that. We can focus on the cigarette now. Basically, cigarettes are small cigars wrapped in paper instead of a tobacco leaf. They're a product of the 19th centuries, and cigarettes were primarily a plaything for rich Europeans. You know, a douchey affectation.
Well, you would know.
Tobacco producers, however, knew the convenient form of a cigarette had potential if they could find a way to make them cheap enough that everyone could afford them, not just the Euro trash. And it would take the Industrial Revolution to change that. In 1881, a Virginian by the name of James Albert Bonsack.
Ballsack?
No, Bonsack invented a machine that would roll cigarettes. Prior to this machine, most cigarettes were rolled by hand, in sort of a crude, messy, time-consuming process that spilled as much tobacco as went into the cigarette. Of course, there were professional tobacco rollers, which made them for douchey Europeans. Bonsack's machine could crank out 200 rolled cigarettes a minute compared to the four that human rollers could craft. And by 1883, the machine was being imported to England, and by the turn of the century, cigarette smoking was cheap and increasingly ubiquitous. Cigarette smoking caught fire quickly.
Really, Dave?
Both here in the States and around the world. Cheap tobacco in a convenient form made them easily to produce and ship. Early adopters of the cigarettes were the same people that kept smoking popular for so many decades. Young dudes. Young men like cigarettes because cigarettes can coincide with another modern innovation, the expansion of advertising. Tobacco companies featured rather a lot of scantily attired women on the adverts for cigarettes, a product that was actually socially forbidden for women to partake in. And it actually stoked enough public concern that all these young dudes smoking that many states banned the sale of tobacco to the youths until a little something happened to toss a wrench into that well-meaning works.
The war to end all wars.
From Britannica.com, quote, World War I quickly put an end to the critique of young men's cigarette smoking. In the trenches, cigarettes were easier to smoke than pipes, and tobacco companies, the military, governments, and newspapers organized a constant supply of cigarettes to the troops, an official recognition of the importance of tobacco in offering immediate relief from physical and psychological stress, unquote. And hey, even when I was in, having a cigarette and getting over it was pretty much all the therapy we were going to get. 3 decades later, when the previous war to end all wars had not so much ended all wars, but indeed sparked a second one, cigarette smoking was ingrained into the military and the civilian population.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
By the end of World War II, cigarette smoking was so popular. As many as 65% of all men in the United States smoked and 35% of all women. The average American smoker smoked 13 pounds of tobacco per person per year. And pod friends, the money was pouring in. Philip Morris, the largest tobacco company, did close to $4 billion in 2025 adjusted dollars in 1971. And I picked 1971 because it was the year generally considered to be the high water mark of cigarette sales. Every other high year sales year, but it started in 71. The tobacco companies lost their number one sales driver and the reason why so many Americans were smoking, and they would never truly recover from its loss. I'm, of course, speaking of the year that the Marlboro Man died of cancer.
Wait, really?
No, not really, but it was actually far, far worse because 1971 was the year that cigarette companies couldn't do this anymore.
Well, I guess it's just you and me, buddy.
Yeah, me and my Winstons, me and my Winstons, we got a real good thing, a real good taste.
Hi.
Yeah, me and my Winstons, me and my Winstons, we got a real good thing.
When it comes to keeping a guy good company, there's almost nothing like a Winston. One taste, and it'll be you and your Winstons.
Me and my Winstons, me and my Winstons, we got a real good thing, 'cause my Winstons taste good like a cigarette should.
Yeah, Winston King or Super King, you got a real good thing.
In 1971, a federal law went into effect banning cigarette advertising on television, and this posed a huge problem for tobacco companies. While yes, cigarettes are a product that sell themselves, that only kicks in after you start smoking. And you might think that makes advertising unnecessary. After all, meth doesn't need a 30-second Super Bowl spot to keep the customers coming back.
Making meth?
So why did cigs need them? Well, we talked about that in episode number 313.
Stupid plugs.
About how a smoker would pick a brand and pretty much stick with that brand for the rest of their abbreviated life. And that's where the commercials came in. The tobacco companies needed to convince new smokers, young smokers, that their particular brand of cancer stick was the right cancer stick for you. While print advertisements were nearly as old as cigarettes themselves, it was a radio and television that gave smokers a real chance to choose their own death.
Watch out, watch out, watch out for cigarette hangover. That stale, musty, smoked-out taste in your mouth. Cigarette hangover. That tight, dry, uncomfortable feeling in your throat. Cigarette hangover. That's what takes the joy out of smoking. And when that happens to you, it's time to switch to Philip Morris.
That's actually just the cancer starting. You know, it's not a hangover. It's a tumor. The great thing about advertising is you can pretty much say anything. Like, more doctors recommend Camel cigarettes than any other brand, which was true after Camel gave them free smokes. And to be fair, physician-suggested smokes didn't last long. Particularly as early as 1954, doctors were suggested that maybe smoking was causing the strange spike in lung cancer they'd been seeing.
It's probably fine.
But that was okay. Thanks to the new technology of television, they didn't need doctors anymore. They had celebrities.
Hello. I'm a famous person, and I'm for sale. Do you have a product or a business that needs promotion? Do you sell something worthless, something no one will buy because it's poorly built and doesn't work properly, likely to come apart at high speeds, perhaps with toxic side effects? Well, I'm here to help you. I'll take your product and I'll sell it to them because they trust me. That's right. They trust me because I'm a famous person.
Celebrities had long been shilling smokes, but television added a whole new element to advertising toolkit. Not only did they smoke on the air, the shows themselves were sponsored directly by cigarettes. They would open with something like,
Naked City is presented by Kentucky Kings, only a cigarette with a filter made of tobacco, an all-tobacco filter for that all-tobacco taste.
If the filter was just more tobacco, what was it never mind. Talk and variety shows would feature the host or the guests sitting in their chairs, each one puffing away on a ciggy, then break to a host read for Viceroy. News anchors smoked on the air, though they rarely pitched them directly. A host read that shocked me when I first learned about it still kind of shocks me to this day, and it's this one.
Gee, we ought to do something, Fred. Okay? How's about taking a nap? Hey, I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break. That's it! Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack. Winston's got that filter blend. Yeah, Fred. Filter blend makes the big taste difference, and only Winston has it up front where it counts. Here, ahead of the pure white filter. Winston packs rich tobaccos specially selected and specially processed for good flavor in filter smoking. Yeah, buddy, Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
And while the Flintstones wasn't a kid's show when it first aired, it was watched by children. I mean, it would be kind of like, I don't know, The Simpsons doing a beer commercial in the 1990s?
Out of work, sober? You sat around the house all day, but now it's Duff time. Duff, the beer that makes the days fly by.
Beer. Now there's a temporary solution.
Celebrity endorsements on televisions were banned in 1964. From a Stanford University website on tobacco sales, quote, in 1964, cigarette companies were banned from using testimonials from athletes, movie personalities, and other famous personalities who might be appealing to youth customers, unquote. And though everyone still smoked on the air and in the movies, they just couldn't mention which brand they smoked. Not directly, anyway, but it wasn't hard to tell who was fudging the rule for a little cancer cash. Definitely see the pack when they came out, directly featuring the logo on it. And funnily enough, that 1964 rule coincided with the first Surgeon General report on smoking, stating for the first time that there was scientific evidence that smoking caused lung cancer and probably contributed to heart disease. From a Harvard website on tobacco sales and smoking, quote, on a Saturday morning 50 years ago, tomorrow, the Surgeon General Luther Terry made a bold announcement to a room full of reporters. Cigarette smoking causes lung cancer and probably heart disease, and the government should do something about it. Terry, himself a longtime smoker, spoke at a press conference unveiling smoking and health report of the Advisory Committee of the Surgeon General of the Public Health Service. And that press conference was held on Saturday in part to minimize the report's effect on the stock market. After all, in 1964, smoking was common, fashionable, and done everywhere, unquote. Ah, yes, capitalism. It's been killing since its invention. When the ban took effect in 71, things did not appreciably change right away. Everyone smoked, everywhere. Even if your immediate family didn't smoke, you were surrounded by a miasma of cigarette smoke, and by the time I was old enough to comprehend the world, smoking and non-smoking sections were becoming the norm. The first state to regulate indoor smoking was Minnesota in 1975, and even then, it didn't regulate smoking in bars and restaurants, so, you know.
So, nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
In fact, Minnesota didn't ban smoking in bars and restaurants until 2007. Oh, I can recall my childhood days of sitting in the non-smoking section of a Shoney's, and literally one table away behind a sign with a cigarette on it, people chain smoked their way through breakfast. And it wasn't like smokers were contained by an airlock, so the idea of a non-smoking section didn't really do anything. I was in Georgia recently visiting families, one of the last states without a blanket smoking ban, and was shocked to the core of my being when someone lit a cigarette in the Waffle House until I realized that it was cool there. And honestly, I did try to smoke inside, but it just felt weird. Nor have you experienced secondhand smoke until you've ridden in the backseat of a car on a cold winter's day while the driver stovepiped half a pack of stress cigs while shouting at the other drivers in heavy traffic. As soon as traffic backed up, the driver would fire one up and crack their window a fraction of an inch. As the minutes stretched out, the car would slowly become thicker and thicker with the redolent aroma of a Salem or a Newport, because honestly, this was a mom move, as she muttered words under her breath that were probably profane. One cig led to another while you sat in the back sucking down a pack and a half just from the ambient atmosphere. And God help you if you roll down your window for some fresh goddamn air.
Oh, it's freezing outside.
So you sit back there like a World War I soldier in a gas attack until traffic broke up and you arrived at your destination, and you came out from the back seat caked with a thin layer of nicotine yellow like you were playing Andy Rooney's character from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Mr. Go right through. Someday, Mr. Go right through.
And look, family dinners were no better than the back seat or the Shoney's. Going to my dad's parents' house was like stepping into an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, where black coffee and cigarettes were handed out at the door. My grandfather sat in a big leather recliner with an overflowing pedestal ashtray beside the left arm of his chair and an end table with an empty coffee cup on the right. And he'd give you a hug and invariably spill half a viceroy of ash down the back of your shirt. And when my uncles arrived, they'd all line up on the couch, atching their cigs into empty coffee cups while the Vols football blared on the television. And my mom and aunts in the kitchen, partially to help cook, but mostly to get some breathable oxygen. The kids would be sprawled on the floor in front of the TV, ready to refill coffee or bring a fresh pack of smokes from the carton in the hallway closet. And the very first drags of a cigarette my young self ever took were from my grandfather's viceroy, while he laughed and laughed as I gagged and coughed.
It was a different time.
Now, my maternal grandfather was banished to the front porch when he smoked because his home rolls stank, which was odd because they were actually pipe tobacco and they smelled much better than the Marlboros all my uncles were allowed to smoke at the kitchen table. Every meal at my granny's house would conclude with an uncle bringing out a pack of cigs, lighting up while everyone else was still finishing their food and tapping his ashes into the rim to the meal on his plate. or into the dregs of a coffee in the saucer beneath his cup. This was the first 11 years of my life, y'all, and no one thought anything about health impacts. Even if they did, they wouldn't have cared. Or how about smoking on a plane?
Is that even allowed?
Smoking was actually banned on flights in 1976, thanks in large part to the efforts of Ralph Nader. The Civil Aeronautics Board, the precursor of the National Transportation Safety Board, banned smoking on all U.S. flights. That was in place until 1984, when our old friend Ronald Reagan decided he was going to deregulate everything.
He said it.
He allowed it again, and because of that, our flight to and from Guam had smoking on board. Though at 13, I was not yet a smoker. And when I flew to basic training in late 1987, smoking on board a flight for less than 2 hours was banned, but since my flight was longer, I was able to chain smoke my way from Boise to San Antonio, and to be honest, I'm really glad, because that flight was turbulent as hell, and I was terrified because I was going to basic training. And the last flight I was ever able to smoke on were to and from Korea in 90 and 91. 1990 saw a total ban on in-flight smoking. Well, not a total ban, because the pilots could still smoke on the flight deck.
Why is that?
From a 1990 New York Times article, quote, "Federal officials have determined that it's safer to let the pilots keep smoking. In an effort to avoid withdrawal symptoms that could affect the performance of cigarette-smoking pilots, a federal ban on cigarettes that took effect on all airlines last month made an exception for flight crews. The exception reported Friday in the Washington Post was based on a 1978 study by the National Institute of Health, finding that possible withdrawal symptoms could pose a potential risk to pilots' performance," said Dr. Andrew Horn, an official of the Federal Aviation Administration's Office of Aviation Medicine. The effects of withdrawal in a habitual smoker are associated with decrements in vigilance and concentration and increased irritability, anxiety, and aggression, unquote. Alas, for the pilots. In 2000, their exception was revoked, which is too bad because just think about it. If a pilot had a heater fired up on the flight deck, the outcome of 9/11 might have just been very, very, very different.
Oh, come on, man.
And of course, there was the bar.
You're home away from home.
This was the one that hurt me. For most of my youth, when you went to a bar, you smoked in the bar. Shit, people who didn't even smoke smoked in bars.
Hello. Can I bum a smoke?
Look, I get it that you don't smoke. But when you get that half a natty light in, you just can't help yourself. Motherfucker, you know you smoke when you drink. Stop at the fucking 7-Eleven before you hit the bar and get your own goddamn cigarettes. We smokers have to buy these things every goddamn day, and we don't want to smoke the amateur round on your goddamn fucking cheat day.
Take it easy, Dave.
You take it easy.
Sorry, I find that very annoying. And smoke-filled bar is obviously cliche, but also, it's the way a bar should be. Now, I get it. You don't want your brunch spot to smell like an ashtray with beer spilled in it. But a dive bar, when you open the door to a good dive bar, a wall of smoke should hit you in the face to let you know this is a place where serious drinking is done and serious drunks don't have time to be stepping outside to have a cigarette. We should be able to sit in a bar and morosely smoke one after another while drinking ourselves slowly into an early grave. This is how it was, this is how it should be, and this is how it will be again after America spirals into a hellscape of despair that is coming for us over the next few years. It's about the only thing about this dystopian shithole that I'm looking forward to. I was in California when they passed the first in the nation smoking ban in bars and restaurants in 1995, and people were pissed. When the law became effective, my local bar had this big plastic jar that everyone who lit a cigarette up would toss money into, like a 1 or a 5, so the bar could pay any fines. 6 months into the ban, they finally got their first citation and paid the fine on the spot in cash from the smoking jar. And when I left, it had just short of $5,000 in there, and they were still getting more money. But hey, at least we could smoke inside the bar while waiting for a song to come up on a karaoke. And I'm willing to bet 30 years later that jar is still getting dollars tossed to it on the regular. These days, I'm used to not smoking in bars. When I was in New York City when the smoking ban took effect here in 2003. And I've lived standing outside in the rain and snow outside a bar for 20 years now. When I was in Georgia last year, smoking in the bar was even stranger than smoking in the restaurant. I went in looking forward to firing one up, but when I did, I just felt like I was doing something wrong.
Take that shit outside.
My friends were all like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was all like, "I just need to get some air." And I went outside to smoke. Then all the Southerners laughed at me and called me a Yankee. So, I burnt down Atlanta and just came on home.
Oh, after General Sherman, huh?
Speaking as the kind of idiot who still smokes, I like the world better now that we smokers have to go outside and do our dirty business. By the mid-1990s, there was always some holier-than-thou fuck who made a pretentious show of coughing fake coffee and waving their hands and huffily pushing their baby stroller away from me. And I've learned to enjoy a meal without the heady redolence of some old fart next to me with his pack of Kents. And yes, even the bars are better when you breathe freely inside. Though I still do think there should be smoking bars where we could go to drink and smoke. Everywhere then there, include the staff, would be smokers, so no one can complain that they didn't know what they were getting into. The world was stinkier, dingier when everyone smoked everywhere all the time, and not having a thin yellow film all over everything has made the world a little bit brighter. I was happy to give up the plane, the booth at Denny's, and even the bar for the common good. Hell, I even stay a whale away from smokers when I smoke outside, partially because it's the decent thing to do, but mostly to shut the assholes up that continue to do the motherfuckers. I am 20 feet away from you downwind. You don't smell this. You just want to be a judgy prick. Be happy I am smoking this. It's the only thing that is keeping me from planting my foot right up your pretentious non-smoking ass.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
New Vitamin Water Zero Sugar Pineapple Passion Fruit is packed with vitamins. Just like the amount of peas we packed in that sentence. It's packed like your tote bag. The one you stole from your ex. Or your overpriced half a studio apartment. Or extra rushed rush hour traffic. Packed like your calendar. Triple booked at 5, of course. Grab a Vitamin Water. Did we mention it's packed with vitamins?
That is it for the show this week. It's nothing fancy, just a peek in the nicotine yellow world of a Gen X childhood.
It matches your teeth.
Yeah, like your teeth aren't tea-stained, Gavin. Ass. I originally thought this might be a 2-part show, but I finished writing it, and I think I said all I need to say, and we got so much good stuff coming too. You'll see real soon. I might take the week off next week. Or not. Tune in and find out. Speaking of tuning in, rate and review us so others can find us. Tune in, turn on, and drop out. And kick us a buck for teeth whitener at patreon.com/whatthehellpodcast. Do all the things Jeremy tells you to do in the closing credits, otherwise he will not buy us any more of those pine tree air fresheners for the studio. And so for me, Dave, as my lungs inhale the fumes, I need something new. Bledsoe, producer.
His fingertips smell smoky and his mouth smells like an ashtray.
Gavin, and all the fictional camel smokers on the show, we want to say, smoke them if you got them, and we'll see you all next week.
Like an ashtray, it isn't you I miss, no, not at all. It's the happiness, the hopefulness I felt inside your arms, and it's cold out, but the smoke is keeping me a little warmer, and I'm so conflicted, not sure how.
What the Hell Were You Thinking stars Dave Bledsoe and features Gavin St. James and several fictional minions. The show is produced by Kimberly Steele and a part of the Seltzer Kings podcast network. You can find more information on the show on their website, whatthehellpodcast.com, or on Twitter at @thehell_podcast, or on Facebook as What the Hell Podcast. Thanks for listening.
I have no ending for this, so I take a small bow.
Who knows? Could be anything.
Seltzer Kings.
Podcasts.